Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone. I'm Hanindya Ramadhani. So, today's presentation, we're going to talk about professor and professorship. So, before we go any further, we should know about the definitions of professor and professorship. So, what is a professor? Professor, or commonly abbreviated as prof, is a teacher or lecturer of the highest rank in college or university. The term or title professors was derived from Latin, that means someone who known as expert or someone who has the proficiency by public. And what is a professorship? Professorship is a position or office of the principal lecturer or teacher in a field of learning at a university or college. Aside from the definition, we should also know about the professor's duty. The main task of professors is to lead the development of science depending on the field he expertise at the university or college where he works. In addition to teaching, a professor may also do research, either alone or with other lecturers and students. The history of professorship may slightly different in every country. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about the history of professorship in Indonesia. In Indonesia, the title professor is known as a functional position, not an academic degree. Based on the historia.id page, the first Indonesian who bears the title of a great teacher and has the attributes of professor was Hussein Jajadiningrat. He earned the title from the Reksho School, or known as Law University in Jakarta, in 1924. At that time, almost all the rules and systems of higher education in the Dutch East Indies followed the rules and system of higher education in Netherlands, included the mention of bachelor's degree and professorship. Much like today, obtaining a professor's position in ancient times also applies a certain qualifications that a person who wants to be a professor must have a number of weighty and recognized academic work in the academic community. Furthermore, before being appointed a great teacher, the person would have to prepare a scholastic speech and read it in front of the academic community where he works. This tradition without written rules was maintained until the 1950s. Then in the 1960s, a written rule regarding the appointment of a great teacher and the appellation of professor began to be introduced. As laws regarding educational arrangements such as purpose, college forms, exam and degree levels, kind of teachers, and the definitions of great teachers and professors were issued. And the last one is, if you want to become a professor, there are some qualifications that you should have. How do people get to be a professor? In order to become a college professor, some basic qualifications are needed according to the requirements. These requirements may vary slightly in some countries or in some fields, but at least these basic qualifications are the conditions to become a college professor. So the first one is acquire a doctoral degree depending on the field. The first requirement for filling the position of professors in college is to have or acquire a doctoral degree. A lecturer who wanted to become a college professor was required to get a doctorate. This is because they must keep up with the development of science and improve their personal skills. Thus, the way it can be done is to get the education as high as possible. For example, if you are interested in teaching English literature, you are required to get a PhD in a relevant fields, such as English studies, English literature, or other relevant fields. And the second one is teaching experiences. To be a college professor is not an easy thing. There are many things that need consideration and great effort to accomplish the professor position. Hereby, lecturers who want to become professors must pursue careers in teaching at least 10 years. This is because a professor needs to have a good experience in teaching, and the credibility of the knowledge can be accounted. And the third one is professional certifications. In order to become a college professor, acquiring a professional certification is needed depending on the field you want to teach in. For example, in a technical or vocational field such as health, education, or accounting. And the last one is publications. As for another condition that should be considered in order to become a college professor is publications. It means that someone who wants to become a professor should have published scientific works in reputable international journals such as Scopus. To be listed in the reputable international journals such as Scopus requires high qualification and a considerable amount of work, with at least 4 journals that need to be published. This will certainly take an effort and struggle to achieve. So that's all for my presentation. Thanks for your attention.